Now would be a good time to turn on the oven to get things warm, and then I'll put the bread on the oven. It'll help it rise. You know, it's so hard to see these numbers, I can barely tell what it is. Oh, I think that's probably good enough. Okay, here's our bread, and it'll rise, and when it does, it'll become a beautiful loaf of bread after we bake it in the oven. Okay, so now that we have a little more time, we're waiting for the bread to rise, I want to tell you more about the story. So the people were looking for this sign from Jesus to say, "Are you who you say you are?" And Jesus says, "I am who I am." They wanted a sign like they had back in the days during the 40 years in the wilderness. They were out there starving, and they said to Moses, "Moses, give us a sign, or else let us go back to Egypt and die." Well, he prayed to God, and every evening about dusk, quail would come to the camp, and they were able to catch them and get these quails, and they would have them for meat. And every morning, when they would wake up in the morning, there would be this strange, spongy, flaky, bread-like stuff on the ground. It was called manna, and they would scoop it up off the ground, and they would make it into bread. And that every day they had meat and bread, and this was a gift from God. So when they saw this, they said, "This is proof that we are supposed to be where we are because God has saved us." And Jesus says, it wasn't Moses that did it, it was God. Moses didn't give you the bread, God gave you the bread. And Moses was God's vessel. Now God is giving you new bread. I am it. The people cried out for this bread, and they wanted to know what it is. And Jesus said, "The bread that you seek is given to you when you believe in God who sends me." The bread is not just bread. It's something that satisfies your life for the whole time. So when we celebrate communion, it's to remind us of the real bread of life. I mean, the bread which we break when we have communion and the juice that we drink is really going to only satisfy us physically for a little while. But the bread of God is eternal. So the bread that we have is just a symbol. It's just a reminder of something that is more eternal. The bread which I bake is just a poor example of the bread of life. I know that I'm really not able to make the true bread of life, but I can experience it when I believe in Jesus. Here is the good news. Okay, I don't think we have enough time to wait for this dough to rise completely, so I'm just going to put it in the oven and see what happens. All right, here it goes. Good. Okay, let's see what happened. Oh, look at that. Just perfect. This is the way it is. God is the one who makes the bread of life. God is the one who takes all the ingredients that we have in our lives and makes them into something that is wonderful. It is a witness to the world what God does with our life. We do not have to bring it in perfect. In fact, for God, this is the way it works. So that when we see what God has done with us, we know it's not us that does it, but it's the bread of heaven from God. God can do anything with our imperfect measurements and our sloppy attempts and our not quite enough of each thing. And God uses us and gives us words and witness and strength and a passion for life. As we have heard by several folks, myself and Bob Pumphrey, our lives are a sermon. And only at the last resort do we need to use words, if I were to paraphrase St. Francis. And as that sermon, God is speaking through our lives, through our actions, through our witness, and occasionally through our words. May God bless you this holy day.